Question 2 is asking you to name alkanes that don't have branches. And they ask you to give specifically the IUPAC name. This IUPAC name, that stands for the International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, and they are the ones who came up with these rules that we're going to follow for naming. So IUPAC names just means the names from these tables that we're going to use. So here, the first thing you want to do is to count. A name has three parts: a prefix, an infix, and a suffix. The prefix tells you about the number of carbons, the infix tells you about bonding, and the suffix tells you about the functional group you have. Those are little collections of atoms, groups of atoms that always behave or function in the same way, and that reappear on lots of different molecules, carbon chains. Now in this example, in this problem, we're only going to deal with hydrocarbons. Those are molecules made just from hydrogen and carbon. The first thing you want to do is find the prefix, and that comes from the number of carbons. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 carbons. The prefix that stands for 5 carbons is pent, so we have pent. Then if you look at the chain, there are only single lines here. If there were double lines, for example, lines like this, or lines like this, then you would either have a double bond, in the case on the right, or a triple bond, in this case on the left. But because we don't have any lines like that, we only have single lines, we only have single bonds. And so the infix we're going to use is AN. So that will be AN. Last but not least, we don't have a functional group here. We only have hydrogens and carbons. You can see that especially in this picture on the left. And so the suffix is going to be E, so this will be pentane. All right, we're going to follow the same procedure here. First, let's get the prefix based on the number of carbons. Here we have 1, 2 carbons, so the prefix is F. We only have single lines, so the infix is AN. And it's a hydrocarbon. It's only made of hydrogen and carbon, so the suffix is going to be E. The name for this molecule would be ethane. Okay. For C, first thing we do, get the prefix by finding out the number of carbons. In this molecule, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carbons. That means that the prefix we're going to use is hex. We have all single bonds, no double or triple lines there, so the infix is going to be AN, and because there's only hydrogen and carbon in the molecule, the suffix is going to be E. We've been looking at these diagrams on the left to tell that there's only hydrogen and carbon, but you can also look at the skeletal diagrams, the ones on the right. If there's ever something other than hydrogen or carbon, the symbol for that element has to be written in. So if you don't see any symbols for other elements in the skeletal formula, you know you just have a hydrocarbon, and the suffix is E. So the name for that molecule is hexane. All right, in this one. Now it isn't a ring, we'll deal with that in a second, but first we just follow the same procedure. So let's see how many carbons we're dealing with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 carbons, prefix is hept. In this, we only have single lines through this whole thing. We don't have any double or triple lines, so we only have single bonds, and the infix is AN. And it's a hydrocarbon. There's only hydrogen and carbon in this molecule, so the suffix is E. Now, this would just be heptane, except that this molecule is in a ring. And if the molecule is ever in a ring, you have to put a prefix in front of that whole thing we just came up with that says that it's in a ring. Now, the prefix for a ring is cyclo. So this is not just going to be regular heptane, this is going to be cycloheptane. And that is the name for that molecule, cycloheptane.